solved by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we sell.
Wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. So, today is Monday. It's the fucking day is it? 7th of October. And let's look at, let's get one that has the full, there we go. Daily levels. So we had our weekly close, closed around 62.8. We had a lower time frame shift here, a couple of weeks back closing above, and then closing again slightly below it, but with a pullback, filling in the gap, sitting now with BTC into a consolidation. Starting off this week with a pump, which I think can potentially take us all the way to the highs or into a lower high. So one of two paths I would say is somewhere around here. It drops back for a retest or continues probably today. And I would say that the momentum of this move, if we start to break through today's high, will take us all the way there to this liquidity. And at that point we drop back or potentially resistance up above. But I think a continuation move here is very likely. And I'll break down on trade of the day exactly how I would trade that. But from weekly outlook, I mentioned what you want to watch for BTC is liquidity areas and reactions off those if and when we reach them, because we have a kind of a interesting market. The futures market's opened and the VIX is up, so volatility rising again overnight on the futures open. Interesting to see if that carries through into the main session. S&P opening up with a move lower, and yet Bitcoin's rallying. Gold opened up, I think pretty much flat, not much movement. A little bit of a move up, but broadly just sideways. The dollar opening up sideways as well. So heading into this week, I think the momentum on BTC will continue unless we see some overextension. But what we definitely have seen are some pretty big pumps across the altcoin market and specifically meme coins. What's going on with the yield curve here? Yeah, interesting. Anyway, with moving through to new highs. So these are the areas you want to be watching out for now with some different coins. Are they going to continue from here? Are these breakouts, or are these going to end up being false breakouts, which drop back? Giga keeps rallying, new all-time highs. Chud moving up, trying to move towards its own all-time high. Sigma blasted through all-time high with a massive pump and a big wick forming. Mumu the Bull rising up pretty much everything. Pepe's setting up, I think, really nicely. I think Pepe will make it to its highs and then drop back and then consolidate more, and then we see another move later on. Wolf moving into a lower high area, I think, which is one of the things I mentioned, the other day. With something like this, it is a nice 4-hour trend, and I'd expect that it probably does something like that if there's not going to be a breakout in the near term. I think that this level that was set probably gets back and revisited and the 4-hour bands get held. Apu continues to go higher. So Apu offered a potential trade. I was looking at a false breakout on Apu. I was hoping to, over here, when it broke out and fall back down, I was hoping it would come back and consolidate at the 1-hour bands, but it has just continued through itself. And I think, I can't see that. I'd have to look at it over here on Dex Screener. As Apu's moving up to where you can see this. There you go. Right up into this diagonal trend line area. And so I would expect probably some of these are going to be near pullback areas. If you're looking at like the daily trend, which is developing on a poo, it's still bearish. 200 is above the 100, above the 50. So I would guess that after this rally ends, it's going to drop back and consolidate around the bands to get them to fully cross bullish, and then it'll probably run harder later on. Definitely I think this is the point like where people are starting to panic if they're not long enough because stuff's pumping and it feels like everything's going to run away. So MOG making new highs. MOG actually has a really nice chart here from its previous all-time high in March. It came back down throughout the summer, broke above, back, retested, and is now making a new high. So from here, it's either going to just continue through to all-time highs, or it's going to fall back and continue consolidating above this area before a move later on. And of course, if, it's still in the possibilities that these will revert back down and that support has to be tested one more time and stuff runs later. So this is probably the max pain scenario, I guess, for people who are trying to chase these things short term, is that this is the first rally off the lows and then it fully retraces and then the stuff moves later on. Keep that in mind. Popcat at all-time highs and continuing. So that's memes. Everything else is not really moving. Render, fetch, BitTensor was moving. Sui is making another run here. I think Sui's probably just squeezing towards this liquidity, because a very, very common thing to see is these sharp sell-offs that fall back and hold. The squeeze goes back to where people think it shouldn't. If you look on the daily, big reversal candle. So a lot of people will short this and then they get taken out if it makes a new high. It's moving up with no pullback, very inefficient. It's probably going to take those highs and then drop back and have to go into more consolidation. Whether that ends up being a proper top to take it down for a more lengthy consolidation, not sure, but I will be watching out for that when it touches those highs. Celestia, looking across some of these others. A few of these others just trying to put in bottoms. Aptos and say. What about the new shit? Not much movement over there. So, yeah, I think broadly, BTC has led with a little pump this morning. ETH, not much movement. Solana just sort of moving up through its range too. ETH BTC still brutally bad. Bitcoin dominance is actually still relatively high considering some of these pumps. So what that tells you is the pumps you're seeing across the market are really confined just to meme coins, like almost nothing else. There is one or two coins elsewhere, but it really is just a meme market at the moment. And that's where focus should be for any type of trading. It should be focusing on pullbacks, retests, continuation on these coins until it's really like there's still a lot of people who think meme coins are dumb or they shouldn't be running or it can't be that easy, we can't have it again. And clearly memes are the winning asset. Clearly memes are the thing people care about. That'll probably continue for on and off for the next several weeks, if not months, if the market remains bullish. Like if Bitcoin continues to move through its range towards 70 and eventually breaking out to all-time highs, memes are going to continue to lead, but then they will probably also top out earlier. And if you think of it this way, if people are still a bit hesitant on memes, next week, the following week, next month, the following month, slowly, everybody will capitulate into memes. And at that point, whenever the market's completely just full and oversaturated with nothing but meme coin bullish thesis and nothing but meme coins could ever run, that's probably when they start to lag. I don't think that's here yet. I think it's still a meme market. And if you haven't seen Weekly Outlook, definitely check it out. I want you to make sure that you keep Bitcoin on your radar when you're using it for context of trading these other coins. And if you do that, you'll keep yourself on the right side of the market. And what else? Yeah, so for me today, there's a couple of things. One thing, there's a lot of focus still on geopolitical war stuff and inflation stuff or employment jobs data and negative things and bad things. This is most likely one of those areas where the market doesn't give a shit about that stuff. When there's a bull market and bull market momentum, the market does not care, especially crypto. The market does not care about bad news. Bad news is not bad news unless it's major, major, major shock. And it doesn't mean that everything's okay. It just means that the trend is going to continue regardless. And part of that is because people are hesitant because they feel like, oh, but what about the war? What about escalation? What about bad jobs data? What about recession? And all that what about, it stops people from investing, stops people from putting their money in. They don't feel safe to do it. And then they watch the market continue to rise for weeks or months. And then eventually they just have to capitulate and get in and get long. And that's when you see the biggest risk. So I think as long as we continue to have a strong Bitcoin, which we do, we've got Bitcoin moving nicely through its range. It is not breaking out yet. It is not bullish yet on a high time frame from a breakout perspective. But certainly as long as it's above 60, you're seeing strength through consolidation. And of course, once it starts to break above that, then you're looking at potential for higher highs to come in. And the Bitcoin, if Bitcoin breaks and goes above 70 and 75 and push towards 80, you'll probably see everything else lag as attention switches back to BTC. So part of the reason why stuff's running right now is kind of an anticipation of that. It's like front running the future Bitcoin flows. And keep an eye on it. It's by no means guaranteed to continue, but things are set up pretty well here. And overall, the market seems relatively balanced. I'll just check global open interest and the global funding rates as well. So we can just see here how things are looking. I think mostly the risks of OI positioning are still fairly well balanced, right? Open interest is rising up again as price does. I think if Bitcoin gets to 66 to 70, whatever, you're probably going to see it overextended and then pull back. Bitcoin's funding is still almost negative. Altcoin funding is below neutral, 0.0098, so just basically bang on neutral, which is 0.01. Neutral funding rate is not zero. Neutral funding rate is 0.01%. That's what the exchange has set it at. So you have a balanced market. When you zoom out, look on the bottom right-hand corner. It's not crazy funding levels. It's not crazy open interest levels relative to earlier this year. So it seems the markets have more room to run. That would be my view. Weekly outlook remains the same. I still definitely see a potential for BTC to sweep these lows. It might go to these highs first. If it starts to reverse back down there, I think it's going to take those lows and take out people who tried to bet on the bottom yet again. If not, we continue through to this high. And don't get distracted by all the crazy pumps. Have your coins, have your systems, have a plan, an approach to trade them. If you see something you like but it's pumping, you're going to have to either wait for a correction, so you're going to have to wait for some consolidation to form and a continuation, or you're just going to have to leave it. Right? Don't chase down things just because they're pumping. That's a surefire way to lose in crypto over the long term. And that is it. GM. 2 streams today. They're going to be back to back. 4 p.m. UTC is Ask Michael. That's the whole campus. And then at 5 p.m. UTC, so right after it, we will do Mentorship Monday. That's for blue belts and above in bootcamp. See you all then. GM, GM, GM.